tough few months for Europe's airlines. Italy's flag carrier Alitalia went into bankruptcy on May the 2nd after Abu Dhabi-based Etihad withdrew its financial support. 3 months later, Etihad pulled the plug on Air Berlin, following years of losses at the German budget carrier. And on October the 2nd, the UK's fifth biggest airline, Monarch, entered into administration. Around 110,000 passengers were stranded. The company blamed reduced demand for flights to Egypt, Tunisia and Turkey. Now let's get more on this from aviation entrepreneur Fabrizio Poli, who's in Manchester. Fabrizio, great to have you on Money Talks once again. Let's talk about the European carriers. It's been a rough ride. What is the possibility that we may see more bankruptcies in Europe?
Well, I mean, it's a very, very competitive market right now, like never before. And you see, the thing is, a lot of these low-cost airlines like EasyJet and Ryanair, they manage their business in a very flexible manner, in a very modern way. And so you've got, big carriers like Monarch and that have been around a long time, and they're based on a military model. And so they base themselves on a military model, which is not very flexible. The market's changed completely with social media and that. You can go online and book a cheap flight, which you couldn't do years ago. You had to go to a travel agent. So a lot of these larger carriers, they don't change quick enough. And so I think we're going to see a lot more bankruptcies. I do.
Well, so does Michael O'Leary. The Ryanair boss, he's saying that Norwegian may be next. He says that Norwegian may have just months to go before it goes bust. He's pulled out of a long-haul deal with Norwegian Airlines. Norwegian denies, of course, that they're in trouble, but so did Monarch.
Yeah. Well, no, Norwegian, bear in mind, the guy behind Norwegian has a lot of money. So I don't think they're going to be the next ones to go. I think we have to look at people like Thomas Cook, people like Jet2. These airlines have been around a while. They're trying to compete with the likes of Ryanair and EasyJet, but they're struggling. So I would say there's more chance of those people going bust than someone like Norwegian that have got new aircraft. Yes, they did get a few things wrong, but everybody does. But they've got somebody behind them that's got a lot of money, and Norway's a very rich country.
Okay, so in Europe, we've seen airlines go bust. In the US, however, over the last decade and a half, we saw a much more orderly consolidation of the airline industry. Why are we not seeing that kind of orderly merging of the airlines that you had in the US? And why are we seeing airlines like Monarch just go to the wall?
Well, I think the problem we have in Europe, and it's a general problem, we tend to change very slowly. And it's a cultural thing. While in America's always been about speed. They always come up with, a lot of inventors struggle here in Europe, and they go to America and they make their dream become a reality. Why? Because the environment there is an environment which allows change quicker, and it's less regulated than we are here in Europe. And so it's easier for companies to merge. It's easier for transitions to happen. It's easier to change quicker than it is here in Europe. I think we're too over-regulated here in Europe, and I don't see things going in a manner of where it's going to improve. I think it's going to get worse.
So where does all this leave consumers? Where do you see airfares going in the future as the pressure mounts on some of these budget carriers?
Well, the airfare is always going to be good because, at the end of the day, all these carriers, someone has to book a holiday for the weekend somewhere in Europe, and they're going to look at Ryanair, they're going to look at EasyJet, they're going to look at, Jet2, and they're going to go for the cheapest airfare. So, if you start raising your airfares, people are going to go to the competitors. So airfares are still going to stay low. It's going to be competitive. And the challenge is the airlines themselves have to manage themselves in a way where they're safe and they're still making money. And that's a challenge for these airlines. And that's where flexibility is so key. So if you've got a company where flexibility is built into the system, then you're going to be ahead of the game.
So let's look at it from the point of view of investors now. Where are the opportunities to buy good airline stocks in all of this?
Well, I would say, someone like Michael O'Leary right now with Ryanair, he's laughing because up until a few weeks ago, he had so many pilots leaving. Now he's got all the Monarch Airlines pilots knocking on his door, begging for a job. So, if I was an airline, I wanted to expand right now, I just sit and wait for the next airline to go bust. Look at Lufthansa now picking up cheap airplanes, EasyJet picking up some of the airplanes from Air Berlin, Ryanair picking up some of the Monarch Airlines pilots, solving their problem. And we're going to see more and more of this. But, obviously you've got to have the cash. You've got to have, again, that flexibility in your system to react to situations like this and say, have we got enough money to go and buy those now cheap 20 aircraft that are available because Air Berlin went bust? And then you can react and get into action immediately.
Right. Fantastic analysis. Fabrizio Poli in Manchester. Thank you very much indeed.